Ironically, in not being present on social media, simultaneously my music started doing better than it ever has. And so I was going to create this masked artist. I'm never going to show my face. I was going to fake a British accent rather sloppily, and I was going to produce an album's worth of songs every day. The only way I could possibly do that is to freestyle everything. That was my experience of how awesome the internet can be.
Yeah.
At its best, it is this place where somebody like me, as an 11-year-old in Amish country, can pursue the things that I wanted to do and could see that world that I never held tangibly as a possible future. If you're a casting director and you want me, just send me money and I'll do it. I don't need an agent for that.
He started with film directing and has since moved to music, which seems to have paid off with his 300,000 monthly Spotify listeners. Whether you love him or hate him, he moves regardless. Please welcome Lilo Key to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me. Nice little intro.
Yeah. I love that little slogan. I went to your Spotify bio to try to learn more, and that's all it says. Love me or hate me, we move regardless.
I've gone through so many iterations of that bio. Like back when I had managers and stuff, it was like, well, make sure we put all of our social links in there and I'll do this whole bio and everything. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, I don't give a shit about you're not going to know all of me from reading a couple paragraphs.
Yeah.
That's my whole motto. I
and
cannot be stopped.
There's the really over managed or over labelified bio of it's just stats and achievements. That sounds like a Wikipedia bio. And I'm like,
yeah, exactly. That's how mine was at one time. And I was if you like the music, you like the music. If you don't, you don't. I don't need to impress you with 1 million streams or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, I mentioned it in the intro there. I learned about it while trying to learn more about you. You graduated from School of Visual Arts for film directing, but then started releasing music in 2016. What made you want to try music and move in that direction from film directing?
So I had been doing music for a long time. I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was a very small town. It's famous for its Amish community. Now, I did not, just before you even get a chance to ask the question, I did not grow up Amish. But there wasn't a whole lot to do around there. And one of the things that was prevalent was little garage bands and everything. And so I had a lot of friends around the neighborhood that had garage bands, and I always wanted to be a part of them. That being said, I did not know how to play any instrument, and my parents did not let me forget that I was unable to sing. So for me, that was that's kind of where that whole notion of love me or hate me, I move regardless stemmed from is this whole attitude that kind of persists in all aspects of my life. Tell me I can't do something and that'll be the last thing I hear you say and until it's done.
Yeah.
And so, so I had made music all through high school, and it was rap music then, and got a lot of hate from it around high school and stuff because, I mean, anytime you start something new, you're never inherently good at it. And again, I'm a white kid from Amish country, Pennsylvania. That's not the typical backstory of the next up and coming famous rapper.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that all through college as well. And I was in a dorm room with 6 other guys, and they liked the fact that I recorded and had my own mic. So we made mixtapes. They weren't artists in any stretch of the imagination, but all were fans of rap music. And that used to be something that brought us together. I worked in film and television towards the end of college, and then just after college as well. In New York City, I was kind of known as the non-union guy to bring onto a set if any role was unoccupied for a short stretch. So film shoots typically can go for 2 weeks to a month and a half. But if during that time, obviously, you have some people that are sick or they're unavailable for a week's time or whatever. So I would just get phone calls and be like, hey, look, we're doing this production downtown. We're doing this production wherever. Are you available? We need a grip. We need a gaffer. We need a PA. We need anything. And I would go and do those jobs. I did not see that um, as a means to get to where I ultimately wanted to be in film, which was directing. I want to make stuff. I want to be the one calling the creative shots. And so, towards the end of college, towards the end of when I just started getting tired of working on film shoots, doing 16-hour days in roles that I didn't see leading anywhere, I thought let's pour a little more gas on the music fire. I can create independently. I don't need a whole crew of people to help produce something. I can produce by myself in my bedroom, wherever, and then build an audience from there, build a fan base, a listener base, and then kind of use that notoriety that I get and acclaim from music to leverage into where I want to be in film. And that stands like that. I'm now
Yeah.
starting to do that and move back into film in different capacities and still going full steam ahead with music, but like I'm just endlessly creative. That is my purpose on this earth, is to make things. And I am not satisfied if I'm not making things. And it was just a means to an end.
Yeah, that's awesome. And going forward, is it going to be more of that like in tandem working on music and film directing, or do you see a day that like you cement yourself as a film director and kind of like put the music on pause for
That's
a
a
bit?
tough question. It's something that I think about a lot internally. Like if things go the way I want them to with film, the greatest film directors or even working film directors in Hollywood, that's their job. That's all that they do. There are people like Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, and others that find balance to it. But even with them, you see that when more visual projects take the forefront, the music can take a back seat. I want to, for as long as possible, keep things in tandem, keep putting my focus equally distributed to music and film. Um, but I am also aware that at some point in time, there might be stretches of time where I'm working on a feature film, and then when that's done, go back, make an album, or go back, make songs. It just,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have endless time.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. And so for the music thing for now, because that seems to be like the big focus to keep building up and everything. With, I mean, when you started, I didn't hear any of these dorm room mixtapes that you said you created. I don't know if they're still out anywhere, if you scrubbed those, but the
They are
the
still
first
out there. Everything's still out there.
okay. Yeah, the first song of yours I found and the first thing I think released was Too Young. What about that song like t told you that like this could start things out or gave you the confidence to release it?
So I had just gone through a rough breakup. I was in a long distance relationship. I lived in New York City. She lived in Philadelphia. Um, and we were dating for maybe 8 months or something like that. I got cheated on. And this is such a wild story. She was in Philadelphia, was working at a Shake Shack, had a rapper who I will not name come into Shake Shack. He was doing a show in Philadelphia. Ended up like I'm gonna say half cheating, didn't sleep with him, but whatever. And I
Yeah.
just took that as like utter disrespect, not due to the fact that he was a rapper. It was just weird circumstance that he was somebody that I looked up to in the music industry, and all of a sudden it's like, ah, cool, you're ruining my relationship. And so I took that pretty rough. And I had a good friend at the time who we went out one night after this had all happened, and he kind of sat me down afterwards. He goes, "Look, dude, um, you tend to pour yourself into anything that you're doing, and during that relationship, it seemed to be that. But I know what you're capable of. Go back, give it one more try with music. Try making new songs, taking all this energy that you have, all these emotions towards the relationship, and put them into songs and let's give this one more try and see if we can make something of it. Now, prior to that, I had never really seen any kind of success with music. Like I said, I've done it since 2011, um, in releasing stuff online, or 2009, maybe releasing stuff online, but nothing ever came of it. And after that conversation, I went home that night actually and wrote the song Too Young. And for me, that was like eye opening. I finally made a song, in my opinion, that sounded like a song, like its own unique song. Like I wasn't trying to sound like somebody else. It sounded like a real record. Um, and so I showed it to him, and he goes, "This is exactly what I was talking about." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, you're on it." And so I put together about 13 songs. I started making music, going pretty hard with it in a couple weeks, and still didn't have any kind of release strategy or anything. So it was just uploading like little performance videos every week on Facebook. And went on vacation with my parents and aunt and uncle that summer, and my aunt had seen the videos on Facebook. She goes, "What are you doing? Like this, what are you getting maybe 1,000 views on these videos? It doesn't make any sense. Why don't you go try to focus on getting a job somewhere or something like that?" I was like, "Well, you're kind of out of line talking to me about anything that I'm doing, but this is gonna, something's gonna happen here. I just know it." Um, and then I don't know if you caught any of this in like a previous podcast episode that I'd done or something, but Frank Ocean was set to release his album Blonde, and it was like the day that the internet assumed he was going to release it. I don't know if he ever said he was going to release it on that particular Friday or not, but I was looking around for the album on Reddit and everything and couldn't find it. So I got this idea to, okay, let's take these 13 songs that I've been releasing just on Facebook, put them all together as if it's an album, make a SoundCloud account as if I'm Frank Ocean, name the album Blonde, and then release these 13 songs as if it's Blonde, because the just inherent search results are going to drive people to this.
From
And
the
so I
the
did that.
insane amount of people looking up Frank Ocean Blonde, and the first thing
Right,
is going to be
exactly. And then
SoundCloud. This
you're going to
account
find,
called
and
Frank
so,
Ocean has an album called Blonde.
so later on down the road, I came to learn that Soldier Boy and other artists had done that in the early LimeWire era days of uploading their music to LimeWire as if it was 50 cents. And that's kind of how he got his footing. And so I did that. And within a day, it was like the songs were 5,000 streams down to 1,000 streams for the last track on the record. And I expected in doing this, I'm going to be met with a lot of backlash, a lot of hateful comments. So this is kind of a short term thing that's not really going to yield anything, because you're going to immediately know, even if I change the name of the album and change the name of the account, that these songs aren't what people were looking for based on the hateful comments. I didn't see any of that. For whatever
Oh
reason,
wow.
people just didn't hate what they were listening to. And it's not like I sound stylistically at all like Frank Ocean or anything,
No, yeah,
but it was just
it's
compelling enough to yeah, keep from getting hateful comments. So I kept it like that. And what I kind of got really lucky, and Frank Ocean didn't release his album for another week. So it was a whole week's worth of traffic of going to these songs. And as they got more listeners, obviously they moved up in the search results. So it just kept piling on. And Too Young was the first song on that album. So when the
got it.
engagement started to die down a little bit, I switched the account over to Lilo Key. It was just a name I was toying around with. And then as I had done with every song that I'd released previously, sent an email to the YouTube channel Rap Nation, and said, "Hey, emailing you again. Here's a song that I put out, Too Young. It's part of this project that I put out." As if, and didn't even mention the Frank Ocean stuff. Just I had numbers now to back it up a little bit and maybe get my foot in the door.
Yeah,
And then 2 days later, they got back to me and said, "We want to upload Too Young. We want to upload Local Celebrity to our platform." They had 1 million subscribers at the time, and this was like peak
yeah.
YouTube music era. And so that's when it started. Within a week, it had 100,000 views on their YouTube page. And I thought, yeah, this is wild. I could actually do something with this now.
That's awesome. And so was that like in was that just uploaded there instead of anywhere that you had, or did you have it
I
on
still
like,
had it on SoundCloud. This was like YouTube
okay,
Music was really big right before streaming services became popular. So I
yeah,
was toying around with the idea of uploading music to streaming services, but I also am a, at the time it became really easy to determine if an artist was genuinely successful or if they weren't. If on one platform a song had like 100,000 streams, and then if you went to another platform and it had like 10, it's like, okay,
yeah,
they're not really established. They just, something happened here, whether it's fake views or even if it's authentic, it doesn't look good. And
yeah.
so my whole notion before releasing music on streaming services was I don't know how to generate marketing on Spotify. I don't know how to bring people to Spotify to listen to a song. I don't want to have a song up on Spotify have under 1,000 streams that has 250,000 on YouTube. That doesn't look good. And so I held off and I had it on SoundCloud, but like had my socials in the description of the video and stuff. So I was starting to bring in the beginnings of an audience.
So it was still very like collaborative with Rap Nation, getting your socials linked and everything like
Yeah,
that.
I'd maintained a relationship with them for a long time, and it was always a very positive thing in that I allowed them to monetize the song on their channel so they could make income from that. And then in turn they would one post the song on their channel
You get
and
the
then
audience from
attach
them.
right. And then I could parse some of their audience through having my socials and stuff linked in the description of the video.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, like, I feel like that's become a big thing. I mean, nowadays it's less accepted, I would say, but the whole like impersonating artists, or there have been cases on Spotify of like songs going up on an artist profile that's like someone else completely different and different sound and
Yeah.
everything and things like that. So it's still around in different circles of the internet and whatnot. And sometimes it works and like it seems to
Yeah,
have in
that's the
your
thing.
case, and sometimes it doesn't.
Anytime there's a system put in place as to how I don't know how to display somebody's notoriety or like social media, anything like that, there are going to be people that figure out how to growth hack it, and it's a real gray area because like that side of things, the um, uploading music on Spotify under a different artist's name, in theory, it's a very similar practice in actual actually doing it. I don't know that I find it to be more challenging to yield positive results from doing that kind of stuff. But it's always good. People want to be famous like that. They're always going to
Yeah.
try to figure out ways to get that quick.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so you mentioned like toying around with the name Lilo Key. What were the early stages of the like of that like, and where does that name come from in the first place?
Uh, I was listening to a No Jumper podcast back when that was a prominent thing. And I think Adam 22 had said something like, has any rapper ever named themselves an emoji? And that just stuck with me for whatever reason. I was like, wow, that's a interesting idea. And then I started looking through the emojis and I was like, I don't really see a whole lot of emojis that I could see representing an artist except for maybe like the purple devil guy or uh, flames or a key maybe. And I was like, maybe I'll just be Lil Key emoji. And then pretty good. This was all within probably 36 hours. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to be named Lil anything. What about Lilo Key emoji? What about just Lilo Key? And then it's like, I
Yeah,
kind of like that. I'll sit on that for a few days. And then this stuff happened on SoundCloud. And it was like, I'll tentatively use this. And then I sent the email to Rap Nation. They picked up the song. And once it went live on their channel, it was like, well, I'm sticking with this now. I'm glued to it.
yeah, yeah. It's hard once you get a pop of any kind. It's hard to
Yeah, thank God
change
I
that
didn't
or
go with
shift that.
Lil Key.
And it's also really hard, just like from a fan standpoint, to like search a key emoji. Like
Yeah, that was
it's
my thinking was like it's an interesting concept, but you really can't use emojis on a computer, so it doesn't make a whole lot
Yeah.
of sense
Yeah.
practically. So I'll just
Yeah,
name myself Key.
it's more of a an artistic choice sometimes or things like that.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to yeah, I was thinking of gimmick, but it's not really a gimmick. If there's like an artistic meaning to it, it works. And I just think it's not integrated enough to
Yeah.
be or popular enough to happen. Like, I mean, Coldplay has done it. A couple of their like interlude tracks are just like an emoji or something. But then when I
Okay.
play it on my car, it doesn't know how to like process
Sure.
emojis. So it's just like a question mark
Yeah.
instead. It's like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah. I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be
Yeah.
that little question mark in a box.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so on top of the solo career, you spent some time as part of the group C4. What was that experience like?
Man, that was a wild couple years. So after freshman year of college, I stayed in the dorms freshman year of college, and
Yeah,
we were in New York City, so it wasn't a traditional college setup or whatever. So I came home back to Pennsylvania the summer after, and I was just getting really depressed. I went to school in New York City because all of my interests were that of somebody in a big city. I wanted to make movies, I wanted to
big
make
city
music, I wanted to
entertainment
do yeah,
industry, that
I
whole
wasn't going
thing.
to do that in a small Amish town. It just wasn't going to happen. So I knew I wanted to be in New York City. And coming back to PA then that summer, it was really depressing because I felt like I'd finally made a community for myself of people that liked similar things than me and saw that as a way of life. And so then going back, it was leaving all that, at least for a couple months. And I just kind of fell into a bit of a rut. And then my dad at one point came into my room and he kind of sat me down. He's like, "Hey, look, I don't really love how you're spending your time lately. I was just making like just shit songs and abrasive, crass stuff, and kind of out of frustration." And he said, "Look, the one thing that you've always done very well and that I've admired about you is your ability to create community. When you like something, when you're passionate about something, you make those around you like that thing and feel the same passion that you do about it. Go do that." And so then that kind of hurt at first, but then I thought, you're right. I need to do something. So even though it was a small town, there were a lot of other artists, and Lancaster has a small city, a small urban downtown, and there's some lower income parts of that town, and it tends to be a thing in more urban environments or lower income environments. The just kind of breeding grounds for rappers, and I was friends with a lot of them, and so I said, "Hey, look, I'm going to bring my camera down to downtown 2 days a week and tell everybody you know, tell any artists that you know that want to come out. We'll do like a little freestyle series." And so I'll edit it when I get home. I'll put it up, and every week we'll upload two of them, and it'll be Lancaster City ciphers. And so I did that for a number of them, and each time word kind of got around to more and more artists, so it was new people every time, sometimes the same, but word had spread after one of them to this artist Dan Azaroff, who I had passively known. Like in high school, when you decide you want to make music and make that decision public, you inevitably hear about people in nearby high schools that have also decided the same stupid
Yeah,
thing that you have. And so there's like this weird kind of brotherhood, but also rivalry with these people you've never met. You just names going around of like, and this was at the time where Mac Miller was getting big. And so the idea of a suburban white kid from Pennsylvania making it as a rapper was a real thing. And so
yeah,
because of that, there was this like buzz in the air of all these white kids in various high schools of like, hey, who's going to be the next Mac Miller to come out of PA? And so you hear about this. Dan Azaroff is one of those guys that I heard about, and he was starting to build a little bit of a fan base in his high school and whatever. So he came out to one of the ciphers and saw what we were doing, and then he said, "Hey, look," he said, "I got a studio session tonight. Can you bring your camera? I got a studio session with a guy named Kev Keys. Uh, can you bring your camera by and record the session. I want to use it for an upcoming album. And I said, okay, sure, I'll come by. I'm not doing anything tonight. So I went to a studio session. They were working on a song. Kev Keys was a very cool dude. Rest in peace to him, man. He was an awesome individual. He was a producer who had his own studio off from his home that he had built out. And so I was there filming a couple of songs that Dan Azaroff was recording. And then we put on another beat. And I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but we all started writing to it. And we ended up making a song together called, I think, East Side. I think that was the first song that we all made together. Um, and then we just had a blast working together. We just had a blast making music together and said, let's do this again tomorrow. So we all got together tomorrow and we made like three more songs, the three of us together. And
That's
we said,
awesome.
oh, this is awesome. Let's, and Kev had a manager at the time. And so his manager came down towards the end of that second day and heard what we were doing. And he said, look, this is something. Whatever you guys are doing here is something. It's not usual that people make four songs that sound this good. And obviously, good is relative in this term because I don't love the
Yeah.
music that I made back then sonically nowadays. But at the time, it was good
Yeah.
for what
But
we
then
were doing.
especially do it that quickly as well within
Right, and it
24,
just
48
it sounded very
hours.
polished for what it was. And he said, "Look, there's a showcase in New York City tomorrow night. If you guys can get three more songs made, we can drive up and you guys can perform in the showcase." So he said, okay. I ran home to my house and said, Mom, I'm going to be away for a little bit. I got to go back to the studio that I just came from. I got to make some three songs, and then we're driving up to New York City, and we'll be back like 2 days or something like that. And she said, okay, well, I'm not sure really what you're talking about, but for whatever reason, she didn't stop me. So, so we went back, we made those songs, we went up to New York City and performed this showcase, and it was, looking back, it was probably one of those ones that like is a uh, nothing company that puts it on and recruits artists to pay for time slots and then has a table of judges that maybe have some genuine music industry affiliation but claim to have much more than they say they do. That's but at the time it felt like this was
It
everything
was
to
the
us.
big leagues. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we performed at the showcase. It turned out to be a competition. We won the competition. And so in winning that competition, we uh, were then represented by one of the judges who was an Atlantic Records A&R, so he said, um, and we were off to the races. I just remember I went on a vacation with my dad to Japan shortly after, like days after all of this happened. It's just like week whirlwind thing. And I was listening to, at that point was our first EP, 6 songs. The first 6 songs we did was that EP before anybody else heard it. And I was just like reliving the past couple of days. And like, this is when my life changes. I just feel it. It didn't. It wasn't. Um, but we went about things in a very traditional way. We did all kinds of shows opening up for bigger artists. We did all kinds of shows around the East Coast and stuff, and tried to do things grassroots. And we put in a lot of work, but inevitably, I went back up to New York City to go to school. They were back in Pennsylvania, and we tried to keep things going for a little while. We would, for our second album, we recorded in Atlantic City in this very professional studio, but for that second album, it was Dan and Kev making these songs and then sending me 8 of them and being like, hey, write a verse to 6 of these. And then we're going to take a trip to Atlantic City tomorrow or 2 days from now. And we'll record our album. And so for me, that took some of the, that initial fire of being able to create and collaborate and stuff out of it. And I was
Yeah.
going in a different direction. I was starting a real, like, out there art project with my music called Holy Blasco, the known one. And it's just taken a very different direction. I was like, I just don't think this is going to work. So that's kind of when things fizzled out. And that's summarizing a lot of the later stuff that happened. Kev's manager ended up ended up being very involved in some sale of illegal goods and funded a lot of what we were doing with the money
Got
from
it.
that. And
Yeah.
there were instances where we were tailed by police just making trips to go do music related things. And then he went away. Um, they caught him at a certain point when I was back in New York City. And for me, that was it. That was okay. I don't want to be involved in this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Probably a smart business decision.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, with all these things you do, it seems like you have a very strong work ethic. You want to keep grinding, keep going. What instills that in you to like constantly be working or moving on something?
So I just went over this in therapy actually this past week and got to the root of what it is. It is a personal fear of um what is it? Personal I don't like to be rejected. I fear rejection. I've been rejected many times. It's the worst feeling in the world. So for me, my defense is to create, create so much so that my work becomes undeniable. Therefore, I can
That
no longer,
something's
as an
accepted.
individual,
Yeah,
yeah, that I can no longer, as an individual, face rejection. And it's almost like a shield in that I just make stuff. The other, but there's multiple. I mean, it's human with anything. There's multiple dynamics. I just love it. Like I feel like I was put here on this earth with a lot of creative gifts. I'm extremely blessed to be as talented inherently as I am. And it also is just the thing that I've always loved to do. And so for me, why would I not want to work tirelessly to do the thing I love to do on earth and to do
yeah,
nothing but that?
yeah. Especially when it's shown that it's possible, or you have examples showing that it's
Yeah.
something achievable. Because that was big for me in the sense of like I knew people did music production or like did things on YouTube and whatnot, or even podcasts right here. Um, but it wasn't until I was maybe like 13 or so that it clicked that if you do it right or do it in certain ways, that can make a living and that can be your job. And as someone
Yeah.
who has always been very interested in not having a 9 to 5 and doing something creative, I was like, okay, what do I need to do? Let me do everything I can to achieve that and keep
Yeah.
working on it. And I mean, I'm sure similar to you. That's why I have my music, this podcast, whatever random YouTube stuff I do. Like I'm just constantly creating because I'm hoping and knowing that one day something's gonna click on one of these venues and or ventures, and it's gonna go somewhere.
Hey, it's Heroek, and this episode is sponsored by me. Well, kind of. If you don't know, I recently started a clothing line called Quest Clothing, which you can shop right now. I'll leave some pictures here on the screen, but we got the core collection, which is just this sleek black and white design on a bunch of products. And then we also have some more like merch style stuff with cover arts for my songs and things like that. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm really excited that I now have it. And so expect a lot more collections, a lot more designs coming out soon. I'll leave a link to it down below, and if you want to stay up to date with any new releases or anything like that, follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram. So go get cool designs like this, or even this, and you'll be helping me support all of this, the podcast, the music, everything. Plus, it just looks cool. We even got this nice big letter design on the back. Look at that. Look how cool that looks. So head to the link in the description to get yourself some Quest clothing, and make sure to follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates with new collections and stuff like that. And now, back to the episode.
I want to get into your connection with ciphers. You mentioned running the like Lancaster ciphers, filming them, everything. And then you were a part of Double Lyrical's 2020 cipher. What was that like? I mean, I know I haven't gotten the chance to speak with him, but I know Joey Nato from who was on that same cipher. Just anything you can tell us about the process of being a part of that, or what came from it.
Um, well, I can't tell you too much, honestly. They just
That's
reached out
fine.
to me on Instagram and said, "Do you want to do this?" Sent over the beat and said, "Here's who's on it." And I said, "Sure." And,
Awesome. Yeah,
and
that's
then wrote
great.
it and sent it back to them. Uh,
That's the dream because as a music producer, it's either that or like send over the beat and then just ghost it, like nothing for months and things like that. And so I'm glad it worked out and was all super fluid and easy.
Yeah, they were nice to work with. Um, I think initially they'd asked me to do it for free. Maybe I could be wrong on this, but I said I wanted a percentage of the song, and they got
Hmm.
back to me. Were like, yeah, sure. And so it was nice to work with them. I like that. That's not the kind of music that I listen to. Really, is like these long rap ciphers and stuff like that. But it's fun to participate. It's fun to collaborate with other artists, especially ones that have similar journeys of like taking something intangible and making a career of it. That
Yeah.
stuff's fun.
Yeah, definitely. And so I mean, absolutely no need to like reveal your business side or anything like that, but do you have a preference as to like whether you accept percentage of a song or like a flat fee for
It
any kind
depends.
of
Like
features and
I'm
everything?
transparent. I'll talk about anything with you.
I appreciate
It it
them.
it it depends on like if you're an artist that has no following, and I don't like your music, I won't work with you. If you're an artist who has no following, I like your music, there's one of two ways that I can work with you. If you have something that you want me on as part of a project or something like that, I tend to give a flat fee to cover like the work that I'm doing in
Yeah,
writing, recording, uh, engineering a verse, and then maybe take a percentage of it. It also depends on if you want to list me as a main artist to kind of trigger my listener base on streaming services and all that kind of stuff. The other thing that I've done is like if I'm also actively looking for artists that challenge me creatively. So I find artists semi frequently now. I used to do it more so when I had more time to listen to music, but would find artists that I just liked for their sound, and I would send them a song and be like, "Hey, can you do a verse on this? I think you are what this song needs." And like, my song "Somebody Like Me" with Cozy Boy, he wasn't nearly as big as he has now. He was I think, I mean, we were both significantly smaller artists back then, but I had originally recorded that hook myself, and I was just like, I know I can't sing this. Like, I can't sing it to sound the way I want it to sing, but I
yeah,
love what I've written here. And so I sent it to him, and he got back to me. He goes, dude, this is the first song that somebody sent me that sounds like a song. I'll definitely do it. And um, my song, Waters or something with Renz Young, he was another one of those artists where I just happened to find um, and put him on a song.
yeah,
I like
yeah,
I like doing that. I like discovering artists. That would be if I had more time and didn't have as many various aspirations as I do, that would be a lot of fun. It's something that I've toyed with in uh, nurturing that side of the music industry and my artist discovery stuff because I genuinely believe I have a really good ear for who could be next in terms
yeah,
of being a prominent recording artist. But it's so much work. It's so
yeah.
much work as an artist myself to constantly navigate the changing marketing landscape and social media and all that kind of stuff. I would need somebody with a lot of money to back me and say, yeah, now go hire two people to go do all the legwork and you just oversee it. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
As soon as you get a handle on everything and like get it all down, there's something new you have to learn or perfect or something
Oh yeah,
changes with one of the things you're already doing and you
that
have
was
to
one of the
course
hardest
correct
things for
from that.
me at the beginning of like building a fan base because I hate just as like a human being, I hate social media from like the user side of it. Like I don't care to show anybody glimpses into my life, what I'm eating, what I'm doing, who I'm hanging out with. I could give two shits. If you're not here, you're not here. Um, so in being an artist, having to do that more and more and constantly being told by labels like we got to brand you, we got to do this, all we got to post more pictures, we need to do photo shoots. It's like I don't care. I don't know how you guys should adapt to my not caring and make do with it, but whatever. And I just as I was starting to come around to taking more photos and stuff like that, suddenly video becomes a thing. And I mean that's a change that for me was very welcome. Like that's my
Yeah.
area of expertise, and I love. I'm much more in tune with the usage side of social media and the branding individual self branding side of social media now that it's video based because that's uh, one of my biggest loves. But yeah, it's just always changing.
But yeah, and I get what you're saying with like the not wanting to use social media because it just gets too much at times, especially as a consumer. Like I was telling someone else I had on this podcast about it, but like there's always some new platform or new trend that you're supposed to get on as like an artist and everything. And for the first like I feel like the newest one is I don't know if you've heard of this app Blue Sky that everyone's getting
No.
on, but I was like, I don't know. It's like it's trying to be like a text-based one like Twitter and whatnot, but its whole thing is like no algorithm and whatnot. I don't see anything too big coming from it and whatnot, but I was like, let me try it out at least. But I made the conscious decision. I was like, I want to try this out because maybe I can find an audience for the creative things I do. And I
Yeah.
created it just for that because like Instagram and all these things that I started for like myself and then I was young enough to only start music and whatnot after the fact. I have like
Yeah.
two accounts and whatnot. This, I was like, let me just make a music account. I'm not going to make a personal one for this. I'm not going to spend time on it to like consume and whatnot. This app is on my phone to promote my music and
Yeah.
basically use it as like work or a music promotion thing and things like that. And I think it's important to have that distinction because there's just so much on too much to consume now. Like you're not going to be
There
able to
really is.
watch
And that,
everything that you want to watch.
so in 2023, I made a conscious decision of like, I'm going to make a TikTok. I'm going to figure out TikTok and try to post a video every day or at least post videos, couple videos every week. Um, and it took a long time before I got a hang of things and released this song Bad Day, which is kind of a tongue in cheek, over dramatization of a regular ass bad day. Like dropping your phone in your sink and then blaming God for ruining your life. Um, I made a video, a little TikTok clip of it that did kind of well, and then I made another one, and that's when I started to figure out TikTok and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and spent a lot of time doing it, and then I think I just, in some capacity, burnt myself out with that kind of content creation because in reflecting on a year's worth of work, it's like you made a bunch of really short little videos that don't amount to much cohesively in my to me. Um, I want to make bigger, fully realized projects, and so last year and this year is when I'm going to start putting out some of that stuff that I've been working on. But I kind of took a big step back from social media. I don't really post much on it at all, and ironically, in not being present on social media, simultaneously my music started doing better than it ever has. I was like, all right, I'm cool. Like that's always been my mentality. I was asked early on in my career before the whole notion of artist influencer kind of pairings came about was, do you want to be known as an influencer, do you want to be known for your music? And my answer at 10 times out of 10 was my music. I
Music.
write
Yeah.
songs to tell stories, to impact people where they are in life. I don't care if you I'm not going to do a put them in a coffin into a grocery banana stand thing. That's an outdated reference, but
Yeah. No, but I get it. I mean, first of all, like you can put all this work into TikTok, but then like look at what's happening now with TikTok, where it might get banned and like just that whole
and
like
I see more and
constant
more.
adaptation thing.
Yeah,
Um,
there are so many artists nowadays that I see that have established that do really good work in terms of establishing themselves on social media, and they build brand images and they get brand deals, some of them, and that's all awesome and admirable. And I wish it to, some small part of me wishes I was better at that. But then I go and check out their Spotify page and it's just a couple thousand people listening to their music. And not that that is the wrong way to be as an artist. There's an infinite amount of ways to be successful. But for me, it's always been, I just want people to listen to my music. I just got things to say, and I hope they connect with people. And that's my way of kind of connecting with the world and making sense of my own world is through the music. The rest of the stuff is just whatever. So I'm now working on adapting my passions for long form content with social media, and I'll do some behind the
Yeah.
scenes of like how I'm making some of this stuff and all that. But yeah,
That's awesome. But I respect the desire to like focus on something and know that this is what you want to create. And when I need to get better at that because like the whole in cohesive short form videos you were talking about, like I got one of these like yearly wrap up days because everyone wants to do one of those now, like every platform and everything. And for like YouTube specifically with like shorts, and I have different channels that I do things across and whatnot. I had, which I didn't even really compute until I got this wrap up. I had published more videos, like including shorts and everything like that, than days in the year, and
huh.
that hit me. And I was like, that's just too much, and it's
Yeah,
making me now for this next year. I think I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit and be like, what do I think is actually like cool, and do I want to create, and what are things that I'm just I could do this, or throw away things that take 30 minutes from start to finish to create and don't need to be out there and things like that.
yeah, it's
Um,
wild. I spent a long time trying to predict and analyze and use analytics as grounds to move certain ways and do different things. But yeah, I've just found probably over the last 2 years that a lot of times that analyzing and strategizing just leads me to be disappointed with the inevitable results of such strategy. And when I just move with my gut and do things that just feel right, as long as I'm doing something that feels right, good things come from it. And so that's how I've been operating uh, for last like year and a half at least. And one of the things that I've been doing is I released this song, Radiohead, which is one of my significantly lesser known songs. It's also a significant deviation from my typical style of music, but I love this song so much. Um, it's one of my favorite songs that I've ever made, and it resonated with me. Um, One night I was rewatching the first Iron Man movie, and I was like, the themes of this song really kind of tie in with the themes of Iron Man and the cave escape scene and everything. So
yeah,
I think I'm going to do a music video for Radiohead, and I'm going to just do a shot for shot remake of the whole Iron Man 1 cave escape scene. And so in my mind, that was like, this might take a month or two. Well, it's a year and a half later. I've learned Blender and 3D, 3D visual effects and animating characters and all this kind of stuff. And it'll be done in a few months probably, but like I never would have planned to do something like that because it on the surface it's like, okay, you're going to take your one of your lesser known songs, spend almost 2 years doing nothing but
yeah.
recreating
Learning
a
a new
movie scene.
skill.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, I'm going to do all this. I'm going to make the armor with paper mache or whatever. And I was like, I'm just gone so far the opposite direction. It seems like a bad idea, but
Yeah.
it feels right, and it feels like this is. And so from this alone, even like without even releasing it yet, so many opportunities have come up in different avenues of like navigating back to filmmaking, and it's opened doors. And that's what I mean. Like when I feel something's right, I've got to keep following that despite what might seem like the best path ahead, because the next right thing
But that
is going to
probably
come.
is the best path ahead. What you want to do, what you feel
Yeah,
is right.
yeah,
That's you should trust that a bit more. And it's at that point, it's one of the creative things that you start to feel, because I've had this happen before where you're just like, I'm too deep in it. Like I
yeah.
can't cut it now. I can't turn around. I can't scrap the project because I've invested too much time, money, whatever it is into this. I need to see it through. We did this very, very last minute, and I want to have you back on again because I have to go pretty soon. But I
That's fine. Yeah.
really, really want to get into your latest song, Joker, that you've put out. Just what can you tell me about creating that in general or the meaning behind it?
We over the pandemic, we did a lot of road trips. I unfortunately lost my father during the pandemic, and we,
I'm
due
sorry.
to the state of the world, we were left driving back and forth across the country. And during those trips, when we weren't listening to podcasts, we listened to a lot of British rap. And for me, that was something that uh, I liked a lot because it was right around a time where rap in the US was largely social media influencer focused and less on the artistry and what I fell in love with in the genre initially. And I still felt that had a presence. The artistry had a presence more so in British rap music, and listened to a lot of that. And so that's what's inspired um, some of this new music that I've been releasing. Some more Afrobeat stuff, like what is it called? Where since you come around, and
Yeah.
spun out and things like that. And so those those songs kind of existed in my mind as like a kind of dipping my toe in that style of music. And then the Joker was um, just seeing how far I could go, like making a UK rap song, a hard UK drill rap song, as an American, and what does that sound like? And uh, I must have been feeling some type of way when I made that. I don't remember exactly what happened in the
That's
surrounding things,
fine.
but I think some deal didn't work out with a record label, or somebody promised to do promotion. Some label tried to do promote, or said they were going to, and then didn't end up doing it. And I ended up leaving the label and whatever. But I just, in a mood, I was like, ah, fuck these jokers. I'm gonna get
Yeah,
the
yeah.
last laugh.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the desire to just experiment and do what feels right because I'm still at the point with my music that that's basically what I'm doing. Like I'm starting to find out that I think hip hop or rap is like the sound I want to focus on and produce, but like almost every release I have is a different genre because I'll be like, hey, I want to try something like this, or I'll be working on one thing about to finish, and then I'll hear like a new a song that I like, and I'll be like, okay, that's a very cool like piano ballad. Let me see if I can produce a piano ballad and
Yeah.
things like that and just wanting to like bounce around to anything that seems interesting in the moment. Um, but I really appreciate that you can do it. I'm glad that you have some meaning to it or some meaning that can connect you to your father and everything. I think that's awesome.
Are you a music artist trying to find a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible? Then check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a super user-friendly and super easy-to-use service that will make your music available in stores like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, Snapchat, everything. Everything you could imagine, it's available. People will even be able to add your songs into their Instagram stories. DistroKid helps you with the distribution, monetization, and promotion of all of your music. Use the link in the description of this video for 7% off any DistroKid package you want. Pick from musician packages designed to help artists get their own music out there, or even get a label package where you can manage up to 100 artists from one profile. So that's more for like managers, labels, and you can also get the musician package that I mentioned earlier, which is more for artists, producers, things like that. It's super easy, and you can get 7% off any package right now with the link in the description of this video. So once again, if you're looking for a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible, I'm talking any platform you can think of, get DistroKid and get 7% off right now with the link in the description. Back to the program.
Back for part two, day two, whatever you want to call it. Lilo and I are back here again, a second day of recording, a couple days after that first section you watched. I just wanted to finish up because I was having such a good time earlier and felt bad that I had to leave earlier. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
coming back on, finishing up our conversation. I'm excited to learn more about you, your music. I don't know if we got into it last time, but I really want to talk about your biggest song, "It's Always Sunny," with over 3 million streams. Did you know that was going to be your biggest song, or like was there anything special when you made that song?
Yeah, so my favorite show of all time is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
And
that's
so that I
immediately what
made
I
that.
thought of hearing the title.
Yeah, exactly. It's an ode to that show. And I was back in Pennsylvania living for a year when I made that song, and I probably was rewatching that show when I when I came up with the idea, and I was like, I always have a tendency to incorporate the things that I'm entertainment that I'm consuming at any given point in what I'm creating.
Yeah,
And it just felt like, I've watched this show watched every episode so many times. Uh, it's only right that I have a song called "It's Always Sunny," and I didn't. It's interesting, like as an artist, you make certain songs and you can listen to them back. Like for me, Too Young was one of those songs where I listened to it back, and it was probably at the time that I was making it too. Like just it sounded different than anything I'd made before. But that I thought, yeah, I could see this being big. Like I could see this being a catalyst to significant change in my music career, and then it was. And then some songs you listen to and you're like, I like this. I'm gonna put it out, but I don't know
it's for
what
the
the
people who get
reception's
it.
going to be. Yeah. It's more for me, even just
Yeah,
in
even
the
that.
creating it. And then there are songs like this where it's like it's a little analytical in the process of making it. Like I did a song. I think it was Charlie Chaplin, um, where I had made it and put it out, and I think that was my first song. Yeah, Charlie Chaplin was my first song that got picked up by a Spotify editorial, and I was like, okay, so that facet of what, and I had a couple other songs like that like didn't contain a lot of melody, were just kind of silly to an extent, and more just having fun rapping. That like Bad Day is another one of those songs that like it clicked on TikTok almost right away, and so there was something in me making that was like, I don't think this is a hit. Like it just doesn't have the melody to be one, but I could see it doing okay. And for a while it did pretty good. And then it was probably a year after its release where it really started picking up and doing like 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 streams a day. It was like, oh, that's I'm so grateful that that's the
Yeah.
song that's like on top of everything because and I keep messaging Rob McElhenney on Twitter, or was at least for a period of time, because I want that show that song to be in that show in some capacity. I want something
Yeah.
to
We
do
got
with
to
that
make it
show.
happen.
Yeah.
We got to start looking up like all just like anyone like in the olden days of like passing out mixtapes, like anyone related to the show, let them know. Like
Yeah.
the PA of like on set one day, just like
Yeah,
send them
that's
the
true.
song,
That's what I should be doing. That's
be
a good
like,
idea.
please,
I'm gonna
whoever
have
can
to
help, get this on the show.
yeah, I'm
Um,
gonna have to play around with that.
so you mentioned getting onto Spotify playlists, like. As for Spotify especially, I've seen it help artists a bunch because it's like bringing all these new eyeballs to it, especially some of the bigger playlists. How much of an effect have you seen these playlist placements being on your music or giving your music, or is it like kind of a
So
cool accolade thing but doesn't actually help out too much?
so yeah, when it comes to editorial playlists and editorial consideration and like direct support from Spotify, um, it is it that itself is kind of two-sided in that the algorithmic playlists and the Spotify algorithms have done wonders for me in terms of continuing to grow my music, push it out to new listeners, and accurately defining what my listeners potentially are. And that is a really interesting thing. Like the Spotify Discovery feature was something that I utilized right after it came out, and I didn't. didn't really know what to expect and had seen a lot of concern from artists over like, oh, we're taking a smaller royalty percentage. And for me, it was a no brainer. It's like, okay, I'm taking a smaller royalty percentage of listeners that I otherwise wouldn't hit. So I
Something over
stand my
nothing.
ground. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the return on that is like, if I get those listeners via an algorithm and I take a hit on one stream financially from somebody, but then they listen again from my catalog, I'm then making the money of that second stream. So, yeah, that made
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Editorial playlisting and stuff like that has been more of a just an accolade. Like, um, I mentioned Charlie Chaplin. That song was on an editorial playlist for, I think, 3 days towards the end of the year that I released it. And so it didn't really do anything. And that was my experience up until up this past year of editorial playlisting. And so for me, I was like, well, I was really excited when it got on the playlist. And then 3 days later, and it came off the playlist. And I was kind of let down. I'm like, yeah, this is all that it is. Um, this past year, I had done a deal with Two Lost, and they have a little bit more pull in terms of editorial consideration. And I'm not sure how much they factored in versus just in working with them. I was then forced to set up my releases farther in advance than I would have naturally. Because sometimes I'll
Yeah.
just set up, like, I'll just decide, oh, next week I'm going to release a song and put it out. And when you do that, you don't have a lot of leverage in pitching directly to Spotify, but setting up releases farther in advance, you do. I had two songs released last year that got put on um, Spotify's like Fresh Finds hip hop playlist. The one song ended up being on there for months. It was like 4 months, I think it was on the playlist, and I kept checking because I was like, this maybe they just made an error. They just forgot
They
about the
forgot it
fact
was
that they're
there.
gonna have.
Like,
Yeah, right. Like not complaining, not complaining. But then at the end of the year, they like the editors come out and choose different artists and stuff that are like the fresh picks per genre of that year, and I was one of
yeah.
them for that song. And so for me, that's really cool. Like that just it doesn't directly do anything
Beyond
for
the
me
stream
tangible.
side of things, it's just cool that you were like
Yeah,
recognized in
but
that way
but for
from
me, that's
Spotify.
like, dude, I was a kid in middle school and high school telling all of the other kids around me that I was going to be a rapper, uh, and I was just getting shit on for it. And it's one of those things where like this is now 14 years later, and I'm being recognized for my artistry by the biggest streaming platform in the world, like directly by. To me, that is so cool, and that's something that I will cherish for sure. Um, in regards to Spotify playlisting at large, when I back in 2019, I had made a song, "Strange Things," and it was I had never seen this show, Strange Thing or Strange whatever the hell.
Stranger Things. Yeah.
Stranger Things. Yeah, I did not see the show at that time, but I knew it was popular, and I heard a beat from the producer, 1998, and I think the beat was labeled Stranger Things or something like that, and so that just like stuck in my head, and I wrote a whole song around it. Um, I had done for that song what I had done for songs prior, which was pitch it to YouTube channels and everything before the release and be like, hey, I'm going to release this song on this day. If you like this song, if you want to support it, we can release it on your channel. And I did that to all of the major music channels on YouTube. What I didn't expect was that all of the major music channels on YouTube got back to me and said, yeah, we want to premiere this song. So it was before the song released, I knew, okay, we have the potential to do 250,000 plays first couple days. And that was really cool. And then what had happened was and because of that, because I had the support of all these different YouTube channels, I was like, I'm gonna release it on Spotify the same day. Different than what I had done in the past because I wanted to keep those numbers consistent. But I thought, if I have say 5 different YouTube channels with 1 million plus subscribers, my Spotify link is in their description of their video. I'm getting at least a couple thousand click throughs from every YouTube channel. That'll boost the numbers initially on Spotify. So I released it same day. A couple days after the song was released, my sister-in-law had appendicitis and was in the hospital. I had just come back from a film shoot like late one night and then woke up in the middle of the night, had to run to the hospital. A lot of our time in the hospital was just spent in the waiting room making sure that we were there when she came out. So I'm browsing my phone. I'm checking, scrolling through Twitter and just dicking around. And I came across, I think it was Brett Fayaz's, or however he pronounced his name, his manager's Twitter, and it was a graph of growth that he experienced on some streaming platform, and I didn't recognize the source of where that graph came from, or because it wasn't like Spotify for artists,
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah,
Apple Music for artists, it wasn't any of that, and so I did some investigation. I found out it was uh, he was using this platform called chartmetric.io. And so I was like, what is that? So I found this platform and quickly realized that I could search any artist, find every playlist that that artist is on, whether it be editorial or user. And so I ended up going through similar artists to me and finding all of these user created playlists that they were on. And then I could, a lot of times, if you like back in the day, especially when you would set up a Spotify account, you could just set it up through Facebook. You could just connect your Facebook to it, and therefore your picture would be the same on Spotify, your Spotify profile as it is on Facebook. So I use that to my advantage, and I thought, I could search this the creator of this playlist on Facebook. If the pictures match up, I'll send a message to him. So I spent like 3 days doing nothing but just sending this song out over Facebook Messenger to complete strangers. And my wife caught on to what I was doing. She goes, what have you been spending so much time on your phone doing? And I explained this to her. And she goes, that is creepy. Like you're just messaging strangers en masse. Like, what are you doing? And I said, just give it a week. Let me see if this works. I think I figured something out. And so a week later, and the song had done like 250,000 streams on Spotify. And um, it might have been more than that, actually. It might have been double that. And it was on hundreds of these user generated playlists. And it was just a sweet spot in timing again, where this was a period that users were finding out that they could create playlists on this platform and amass users dependent on the name of the playlist, their existing Facebook friend numbers, or just any number of things. But like these were real playlists, and the creators, being independent, didn't know the value of what they had created in these playlists with large follower bases and active listener bases. And
yeah,
so those that song and then my following couple releases, it was all just like me messaging them, hey, I like this song. I'm going to add it. And so I watched from when that happened to today, well, maybe 2 years back, to where that whole kind of gray area of Spotify, payola, and stuff kind of evolved from. And all of these creators starting to learn that, hey, I hold something of value. I have artists messaging me all the time. They're now offering to pay me. I can charge for slots on my playlist. You're charging for slots on your playlist. Your active listener base is going down because your curation isn't the same as it used to be. And then these record labels come in and they buy up these playlists that have large followers, or they create new play. And I, to some extent, participated in that. I had gone on a podcast around that time and explained what I did, and I'd helped a couple artist friends out as well, um, in terms of getting on playlists and doing campaigns and getting their listener bases up and stuff like that. And I just explained that on the podcast, thinking nothing of it. It was kind of an artist development podcast, and explained all this. And then the next morning I woke up after it had gone live, and I had probably 100 emails in my inbox from artists being like, hey, how much can I pay you to do campaigns for me? So for probably 2 years, I was helping market artists, and I was doing so to the best of my ability, to the most authentic, like organic marketing that I could possibly find. But I'm not gonna say that I didn't mess up a few times and accidentally land somebody on playlists that the playlist creator was ingenuine about where his listeners came from. It just became
Yeah.
such a dark and dingy corner of the music marketing landscape that, like, as soon as I could get away from it, I was like, I'm not doing marketing anymore. That's not why I got into music. I'm going back to me, and like that was around the time where, for me personally, I was like, I don't have any interest in even reaching out to these curators anymore. I don't care if I'm playlisted. It's just like, for me, it's always been authenticity over everything. And I'd rather get 10 listeners that I know are real than 100 million that are just bots on a computer. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
it
No,
is,
and it gets dangerous because I've talked to artists on here who like had a song of theirs be like hidden or asked to get taken down for like bot streams or ingenuine streams, and they're like, I've never paid anyone. I don't know what's going on, and it's just because like someone else unrelated to them added it to a playlist that uses ingenuine streams, and like it
yeah. And
started
I've
getting
seen
from there.
examples of
And
that.
so
I've
it's
seen
like,
examples
yeah,
like, because that was a large overcorrection then from
yeah,
distributors
yeah,
of being
exactly.
like,
It
hey,
was
look,
like,
we're getting hit with these kind of claims from Spotify, and we're releasing anybody's music and not really adhering to rules thereafter. How do we address this? And so I know a lot of artists personally that would, knowing that I knew a lot about this space, would reach out to me and be like, hey, I just got a takedown for request for my song because of fake streams. I've never, like you said, I've never paid anybody. I've never even been on any playlist. So the overcorrection led to artists that did nothing wrong, didn't even accidentally land themselves in a poor situation, having their songs removed. It's just been, yeah, it just got to a point where it's so messy and dark that I was like, this is
it just
not
gets
fruitful for
very
an artist to
muddy
be.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Hey, if you're like me and you're interested in the YouTube or creator space, you should check out The Published Press. The Published Press is a completely free newsletter founded by YouTubers Colin and Samir. They host their own podcast talking to some of YouTube's largest creators. They've edited some of the best content I've seen on YouTube, and now they're sharing their knowledge about the YouTube space with you for free. The Published Press comes out 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with everything going on with your favorite creators and platforms. And like I said, it's completely free. Just enter your email address to receive the Published Press whenever it comes out, and that's it. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below, sign up to the Published Press, and get all the info you need on the industry.
I want to quickly go back for It's Always Sunny. You mentioned like wanting to bring in entertainment or things you're consuming into your music process. Is that pretty normal for you? And whether it's a song like that or anything else, what's the typical like creative process like for you? Is it writing first, finding an instrumental first? How does Lilo Key make a song?
Um, so to answer your first question, yeah, that's typical. Like, ever since I started making music, I've had this persistent, um, I don't want to say concern, but almost a concern of looking at other existing rappers like Lil Wayne and people who were just very quick, seemingly, to come up with metaphors and alliteration, just all kinds of wordplay and stuff like that. And I never saw myself as an artist that could do that, or think that way. That's just not how. And now it could be argued that I have songs that have a lot of wordplay and found workarounds throughout the years. But for me, it's always been like, to compensate for that. My references, my songs are always going to incorporate just what's in my head at the time, whether it be emotional battles that I'm dealing with, or what I'm watching on TV. Like, it all plays a role in the music.
Yeah.
What was your second question?
Just general like creative process. How do
Oh
you
yeah,
normally go
right.
about making a song?
So every now and then, and this is more of something that I have to consciously kind of train myself to do in, and I think I do it more when I'm actively making music every day. Like, because I think any artist probably goes through this to some extent of like, you have periods when your creative output is immense and you're making music all the time. And for me, it's, I have these weeks where, or even months where I'm making almost a new song every day or making start to a song every day. And for that, that starts to train my mind to think from a songwriting perspective, even when I'm not sitting down to write a song. And so there are times that, or instances that will stem from that, that are like, I'll sit down with a theme or with an idea for a song in my head, and then search for an instrumental that maybe fits that, or maybe I'll have written the start to a chorus, or maybe I've written a couple bars and like, okay, I want to try and find something that fits that. To some extent, I do things the exact same way that I did when I was first making music and that I browse YouTube for instrumentals. Uh, that's gotten a little bit less as time has gone on, just due to, in part, the amount of producers that directly send me instrumentals now. So I try to prioritize producers that reach out to me directly, and will browse my email inbox and look through those instrumentals and stuff first. And every now and then I'll catch one. But um, it starts oftentimes with the instrumental. And so before I did started making music as Lilo Key, I had mentioned quite quickly that I had done a very experimental project with music. And so I was in New York City, um, junior year of college, realizing that I had to create a thesis film for my senior year. And I originally wrote a script and was going to make it and stuff, but I was broke, dude. Like, and movies cost money. So
Yeah.
but I was also making music all the time. And I thought, I want to tie this all together. So I also might have been super sleep deprived when I came up with this idea because it was outlandish. But I was watching where the music landscape was headed after I left C4, after all that, that kind of ended that traditional route of approaching defining a career in the music industry. That I've always kept my ear to the ground as to how other artists are blowing up, what the underground looks like, what social media landscape looks like, all those kind of things. And so I started seeing here and there and putting things together almost like a puzzle of like, okay, I see more inauthentic personalities being displayed in music. I see artists framing their fan bases almost religiously and portraying themselves as a deity to them, like the bass god or other
Yeah. Yeah.
artists similar to that, and SoundCloud becoming a thing. And this was 2000, probably ended 2013. So this was before the big SoundCloud wave. So I had the idea, I am going to, I was also watching a lot of YouTube channels. I forget what the name of the big channel was. It was the YouTube channel that Capital Steez watched a ton of before kind of losing his mind. And maybe there's something in this, but it was like a whole bunch of new age religion, Anunnaki, the origin of the human species videos and stuff. And I couldn't tell you why exactly. It was fascinating to me. It was just this notion of a kind of religious theology that I'd never heard of before. And so I was going to create this artist, this or this masked artist. I'm never going to show my face. I was going to fake a British accent rather sloppily, and I was going to produce an album's worth of songs every day. The only way I could possibly do that is to freestyle everything. And I was going to look to Twitter because I realized at the time, if you go to Twitter and you just type, "Hey, send me beats," producers don't even look at how successful you are as an artist.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just get spammed beats. So I thought, all right, I'll use that to my advantage. And so I created this character, Holy Blasco, the known one, and I would freestyle albums a day and put them out on SoundCloud. And my religion was the Church of Discreets. And it was this jumbled self help, new age Anunnaki type, like just
Yeah.
amalgamation of so many different things, but overall positive. I wasn't going to swear in any of my music, and it was just going to kind of be sonically bass god related in that like it could be argued that maybe one of these songs is good, but in general, it's like he's just putting content out to put content out.
Quantity over
And
quality. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's
So I did that.
going back to part, not to cut you off, sorry, but going back
No,
to
no.
part one of this conversation when I was talking about just this stupid amount of YouTube content I've put out this year, like that was the whole thought process of like just get it out there. Like there's gonna be basically my goal from for then and going into now, but now with a bit more thought behind it is have something for everyone. Whatever kind of music you like, whatever type of video you want to watch, I want to have something there for you so that you can follow along and maybe be interested in other stuff I do down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was probably, I'm definitely not going to say I was the first to do it, but I think that
Yeah,
that thinking was ahead of its time in that era for a recording artist to put out stuff in bulk. Lil B probably was the first to do it, and what I
yeah.
was doing was just a blatant rip off of that in that capacity.
Well, but then
But I
it
did
can
it, and
also work to the highest of highs. I mean, like something that blows my mind even to this day is hearing all these stories present day and from years ago of like producers or artists who worked with Juice World and would talk about how he just like freestyled almost everything or everything. And that like it blows my mind because it's not just the quantity that, we're still getting full posthumous albums from him now, but also
oh
like
yeah,
the quality, like hits, like actual like hit songs that people really enjoy and blow up and everything like that. And that's just like kind of as far as I know, like the pinnacle of what you can get with just like freestyling and really working on grinding music.
yeah. And for me, it was also a personal challenge. Like when I was in C4, the other member of C4, Dan Azaroff, was came to making songs from freestyling at parties and stuff like that. And for me, I
Mhm.
came from a very writerly perspective. I never freestyled. I was always intricate with how I wrote songs, whether they were bad when I was first starting out or became good. Um, so for me, this was a project of like, let me take myself out of my comfort zone to the fullest extent. Um, in this thing that I've become comfortable in and just shake it up and see what happens. So I did that for 2 years and I reached out to everybody on SoundCloud, every artist on SoundCloud and would collaborate with every single person that got back to me. And what ended up happening was like I never achieved substantial notoriety on the platform. That wasn't necessarily the goal. But I collaborated with like Black Cray and Lil Tracy and Young God and all these guys that I had no way of knowing were going to be a generation of music, like popular music, and it was so special to be a part of that scene in a weird enough capacity that like people just were cool working with me.
Yeah.
And so over 2 years, I freestyled about I'd say probably 6,000 songs and um, put them all out there, put everything out there, and ended up for my thesis film documenting the whole experience. And then that was
Smart
my thesis film
crossover.
was a kind of an evaluation of having done what I saw the internet heading towards as a whole, social media wise, before doing that project, and then what I learned through doing that project and how that shifted my perspective on social media and what is needed to make it a better place. And I don't think anybody saw that documentary because social media has gone down a shitter and is just angry.
Yeah.
so,
I mean,
so
I would have rather watched a documentary like that than something like what is it? The social dilemma, I think is what it was, of just like showing how social media sucks and then just being like, yeah, it's awful, right? This is so bad. And like just something very depressing like that. I would have preferred like here's how we can improve. Here's things like that. Some finding some
yeah, that's
positive in it.
for me. Like I'm a little older, so I grew up in forums and chat rooms and stuff where you could, when I was 11 years old, I found this thing called RPG Maker, and it was this program that you could download, and you could make 2D sprite based video games. You could create video games
Awesome.
and do coding and stuff like that. And I found a community of people in Neo Seeker Forum and worked with them. And they had no idea I was 11 at the time, but I was helping to lead a team of people that were looking to make the first MMORPG utilizing that game engine. And it was that was my experience of how awesome the internet can be.
Yeah.
At its best, it is this place where somebody like me, as an 11-year-old in Amish country, can pursue the things that I wanted to do and saw and could see that world that I never held tangibly as a possible future. And
Yeah.
so that was the incentive for doing this project. But anyway, to answer your question, um, from that whole project, I kind of transitioned my way of thinking about songwriting. And so for a lot of it, because in freestyling, especially to that extent, um, I just had, it was all stream of consciousness. I just had to take my mind out of the songwriting process and just say stuff. And so now I'll sit down with an instrumental and I will, at least first pass of a song, not have a clue where it's going to go, not have a clue what my intent is with the song, but I'll just feel what those first couple lines are and then start to look for relations between them and piece it together and find a central theme. And okay, what is my, like, it's almost like my subconscious getting out into the start of a song, and then me
Yeah.
and my conscious translating that and be okay, what am I
Connecting
really
the
trying to say
dots.
here, and then formulating it into something that's doesn't come out as nonsense like the Holy Blasco the Known One songs. It's doing that and then um making it more palatable.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And in terms of, I mean, for Lilo Key now, not fully blast out the known one, but for for your music nowadays, if there's someone listening to this who wants to get into but hasn't heard any of your music before, what would you recommend as like as like a representation of Lilo Key? Like this is the kind of music I make.
um I make whatever I'm feeling like at a given time. So I would suggest you set some time aside where you could be focused on the task at hand. Then take these 5 songs. Hold on, I'm gonna give you 5 songs here.
All right.
And if you
The
like
five
any of
essential
these,
Lilo Key songs.
yeah, if you like any of these, um, you'll find more that you like. And if you don't like any of them, but you do like others, you'll probably, after enough exploration, come to like the ones you initially disliked. Since you've come around, uh, Radiohead, It's Always Sunny, Too Young, and hold on, there's one more. Where is it? Worried About Me.
Yeah. Good list. Good list. I like those five because I think a good amount of those we got to talk about in this conversation. So
Yeah,
I'm happy with that list, and it's telling me I did a good job with my questions and my
yeah,
research.
yeah.
Awesome. So to start wrapping things up here, a couple just like more hypothetical questions for you. If you got a chance to make a song with any artist in the world, who would you want to collaborate with?
Huh. Um,
And you can throw out a bunch of answers. It doesn't literally just have to
oh,
be the one.
I think right now it'd be fun to do a song with Central C. I
Yeah.
think that would be cool. Or H, AITCH, I believe his name is spelled. Another UK artist who I think is very talented. Um, I'd like to do some. Oh, I'd like to make a song with the Killers.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, I think that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I could hear that. Like nice killer song
Yeah,
and then like a rap
I
verse
could
of
hear
Lilo
that.
Key coming
Yeah.
in.
Well, maybe not even like maybe not a straightforward rap for it. Probably something with a little more melody in it. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
God, I love them.
Awesome. And then in kind of a similar sense, but for performing, do you have a bucket list of like venues or festivals you would want to perform at?
Um, no, I I don't know. Over the duration of being a recording artist, I think my perspective on doing things the traditional way has changed significantly. Like back in the day, I used
Yeah,
to want to
definitely.
do Coachella. I used to want to do Lollapalooza and all those kind of things. I think they'd still be fun to do. There's a lot of politics involved with
Oh yeah.
major festivals and stuff like that. I think it'd be fun to perform at Red Rocks. Um,
Well, and the other thing about festivals now is like and I guess the music industry as a whole, but less so now. But still the festivals, one thing that's running them is just the like label involvement. Like I saw a
yeah,
breakdown of like it showed the Coachella lineup, but rather than like artist names, it showed the percentages of like what labels
yeah,
like
William and
percentage of
Morris and
artists
everybody.
of each label and like it was like major label after major label and like independent artists. I mean, I haven't looked at this chart in months, so I don't even remember if they were on there or what, but I'm sure it was like a tiny sliver of the part pie chart. Like
Yeah, and
it's
see,
all the
that's the
networking
thing.
between big labels.
That's the thing for me is like I had a call um 2 days ago, I guess, with a I guess like a friend, maybe maybe mentorish. We'll see how the relationship evolves, but maybe mentor in the music industry. Um, he's a guy that's been around for a long time. He has his own label and has orchestrated deals for artists on all kinds of things. He manages a couple artists himself and
Nice.
does does a lot of different things that a label typically doesn't do, like get artist shows and stuff. And that was one of the things he was talking to me about. He asked me about film and what all I wanted to do, if I wanted an acting agent and everything. And I said, nah, no. Um, so, but if you're a casting director and you want me, just send me money and I'll do it. I don't need an agent for that. Um, he was asking me about live performances, and it's something that I really haven't. There have been a couple times where I've thought about it since the pandemic's been over, about getting back into doing live shows and starting back up that road. I think the most important thing for me is like there's a part of me that wants to get back into that. I'm 32 years old as opposed to 25 years old where I was performing in rooms of 20 people. I don't have any interest in doing that again. So if that's what getting back into live shows entails, I'm gonna pass. Um, I have other things that I want to do. But I think I'm going to start getting back into to doing live shows and doing it the right way and partnering with some people and doing some shows here in LA, and then start looking at potentially what a tour looks like. I've got a large European fan base. That would be cool to get out and explore Europe in that way. Um, and
Yeah.
I'm open to whatever happens, but with a lot of things, it's just like I'm going based on feeling. So if it feels right, I'm all in.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then I'll keep going with what feels right until that changes.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And I mean, well, the last thing I want to leave you with building off of that is just like, I feel like nowadays, especially with social media and just streaming and everything, live shows they're still very important to building a career and a fan base and everything, but they're not a true necessity anymore. You can get by
Right. I
on in
mean,
the digital age in the digital mediums. And a rapper that I really love listening to, I don't know if you've heard of Connor Price, but like he got big on TikTok and everything and was just releasing music and had this thought process of like why do I need live shows? I'm getting however many thousands or millions of views on TikTok videos. I don't want to perform to 20 people and now is at such a big point in his career that he got into touring or doing shows and it's immediate like headline tours and like theater sized venues for him, not
yep.
not like 20-person
Yeah, I
rooms.
was going to bring up Nick D, who
Yeah, I
had
love him as
very
well.
similar mentality, and yeah, I relate to that, and I think the balance is like, look, you don't want to, as an artist, be thrown into that world of like theater size shows and be unprepared to perform and really perform for theater size audiences.
Yeah,
You don't want to be kind of given that big shot and then fail because of your unpreparedness. And so but it's also, without doing it, it's impossible to fully be prepared for that. So I think for me, it's like I want to do enough shows here in LA, low key things with other artists, with friends, and yeah, just kind of group audiences together and really kind of redefine for myself what a performance looks like. Um, and then yeah, be ready for whatever.
yeah,
But yeah, it's not actively looking to, like, I have other artist friends who I've known that have been doing it as long as I have, and like they're still hustling on that side of things, like setting up whole countrywide tours with artists that are slightly bigger than them, and they're footing the bill for a lot of this stuff, and they're going and performing shows for 50 people and
and it's
getting on it
expensive.
it's so expensive, and it's like I don't want to fucking do that. Like
Yeah,
nothing against it, but that's just not
not it
that's not
for you.
interesting to
Yeah,
me.
yeah, 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 and that's totally fair. There are clearly other venues to go through, no pun intended, but
Yeah, there's just so many
there's
ways to
other
achieve.
ways to do it. Yeah, in the digital age. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, especially for a part two. I had so much fun. I learned so much over our conversations, and I can't wait to see what happens for you coming in the
Yeah, this has
future,
been
coming
fun.
2025.
Big things. I'm sure
Big
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 things.
things coming.